Hi team, let's start the today's session. The agenda of the today's session is first we'll discuss the HTTP put versus patch method. Second, we'll discuss about the HTTP status codes, what all different types of status code we have in HTTP protocol. Third, we'll discuss on the difference between Node.js and the JavaScript. And lastly, we'll discuss about the Node.js single-threaded architecture or the event loop. So let's start with the put and patch. Before that, I would like to give you a brief about the client server and HTTP. So basically, what is client server architecture and why do we need this HTTP? So client server architecture is basically a model which we follow in developing an application. So in the client server architecture, clients are those who requested resource from the server. Server we generally create in different languages like Node.js, Java, backend technologies basically, and Node.js is one of them. And clients are any front-end, you can say, app, browser, mobile, Postman, REST clients. These are front-end clients using which we interact with server. Now, how the interaction, or you can say how the communication happen between the client and server, to communicate to make a communication channel between a client and server, we need something, right? So for that, we use HTTP protocol. So HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol which help us to which help us to create a communication channel between a client and a server. So for this communication, HTTP has defined some standards which we need to follow when we are developing any APIs in backend, REST APIs basically. So there are different methods in HTTP like get, post, delete, put, patch. So you must have heard about all these methods, and you all have heard, all guys have used these methods in your project as well. So I'll give a one-liner about all these methods, then we'll discuss in detail about put and patch. So HTTP GET method we used generally to fetch the resources or fetch the data from the server. Post method we generally use to create a data on the server. Delete method we generally use to delete something from the server. And put and patch we generally use to update the data on the server. So what uh, now both method can be used to update the data put and patch, but there are certain difference between put and patch and which one is best to use or which one in which scenario which one should we consider. So let's discuss in detail about put and patch. So let's start with the put first. So put is nothing, is just another HTTP method which we use to update the document in the backend, or you can say a record in the backend on a specific ID. So let's suppose I'll give you an example. Let's suppose we have a document, JSON document, or you can say a database collection document we have having ID, something like this, name, and email ID. All right. So this is the document we have in backend. Now, what put will does is used to update the record in backend. But the limitation of put is we need to pass the whole. Let's suppose this is the record which exists in backend, and we need to update the name of this particular record to let's suppose ABC. All right. So in this case, what we need to pass, we need to call the HTTP put method, but we need to pass complete body request. Even though we just need to update the name, but in case of put, we have to pass the here. So now uh, what our requirement was, we need to update only the name of this record to ABC. But in put method, what is required is we need to pass the complete object. Even though the other fields are not required because we are not updating them, still we need to pass this as a request body. So this is the limitation of the put request. We need to pass the complete record. And let's suppose there are 100 fields in the document, right? Here we have only 4. Let's suppose here we have 96 more fields, or I can say more key value pairs, right? Now what will happen is, if you are going to update this record, you have to pass all the key value pairs or the complete document here in the request body just to update the name of this particular record, which is not the like a good practice. So to overcome this scenario, what we have is we have HTTP patch method. What this method will do is, let's the same scenario will consider. We have this record having the ID, name, email ID, mobile, and other key value pairs, right? Now we need to update the name, but using the patch method. So what patch will do is, let's suppose whatever the URL, right? Here we will pass the ID in the URL parameter, and in the request body we will simply pass name as ABC. So what patch will do is, patch will pick this ID, check the resource exists, and update only this particular field rather than the complete document. So in this manner, let's suppose here we have 100 key value pairs. We don't need to pass all the parameters here. Let's suppose not only name, we need to update the mobile as well, right? So we can pass here mobile as well. So like this, whatever the parameters we need to update for a particular record, we can pass a unique key in the URL, and the record which the key value which we need to update, we need to pass them in the request body. So this is the better approach to update a particular record in comparatively to put record. But I would like to come to put again. Put method is basically used for upsert operation. So what upsert means, you guys must have heard about the upsert also. Upsert means update if exists, otherwise create a resource. Correct. So this is the definition of upsert. Upsert means update plus insert. So when we concatenate these, upsert will come. So what put method will do is, Basically, here I have explained you how to update a record with the help of put method. Now I'll explain how to create a new record. So let's suppose this is the existing record in database having ID 1, name, test, email ID and mobile, right? Now we need to create a new, we are trying to, like using the same put method, we are trying to update a record, but this time the ID is something different. Let's suppose the ID of user is 2, which is not exist in database. So what put will do is, first it will check whether the ID exists in database or not. If it does, it will update the record. Whatever data we pass, it will just update the record. If this particular ID is not exist in database in our records, what put will do is it will simply create this record. So we can handle two operations using a single method, which is put. Update and insert, both methods can be handled by a both operations can be handled by a single method, which is put. So this is the complete logic behind the put and the patch. So likewise, I have explained the document also. You can go through this document. So let's suppose again the same example. We have something like this as a existing record in database having ID 5. Correct. So what here we are doing, we are this is the record. Yeah, here to now we are updating the record. So earlier the record is this. Okay, blog title, blog post and blog author. Now what we are doing is we are updating this record. The blog title remains same. Blog post, we have updated the text. Author will also remain same. So when we perform this operation, the complete record will get updated, which is fine, which is the expected behavior. But in case if we are just passing a single field in the request payload, what put will do, it will replace the complete document and it will only return the field which we have passed in the request body. So let's suppose the same record exists in database here having ID 5 and this blog title, blog post, blog author, and we are updating with ID 5 and simply with a single field, blog title. So after this operation, what we will get is we will simply get this response, and this document will get replaced. So it will no longer contains this blog post and blog author. These two field gets removed because we have passed only the single field here, right? Which is not in the case of patch. Patch means something patch, as the name suggests in the real world scenarios also, patch is something we are just updating something, not replacing the complete document. So here the same example, we have this existing record having the ID 5 and we are here we are updating the record using the patch. You can see we are passing the ID 5 and here we are passing only the blog title, what is patch, right? And in response we will get the blog title which we passed, the updated value, and the existing value of the blog post and the blog post author. So this is the difference. Hope you guys have understand the basic difference between the the put and the patch, and the other methods as well, the HTTP methods, get, post, put, patch, delete, and also the why do we need these methods, like communication, to create a communication between a client and server. Okay team, so till now hope everyone is clear about the HTTP methods. Why do we need the HTTP and what is the client server architecture? Why do we need a HTTP methods to communicate between a client and the server? Now let's discuss about the second topic, which is HTTP status codes. So what are HTTP status codes? So like I said, uh, to communicate between a client and a server, we need the HTTP and we have a HTTP methods, right? But to know the behavior of a server or to know what server is responding, client needs some kind of identification, right? What how the server is behaving, or vice versa. Server should know like what kind of request comes in, right? So for that, HTTP has defined some status codes, which we also known as, and which we also known as a response codes. So HTTP status codes are nothing, just a 3-digit response which we get from the server to any client to help the client understand what happened, right? So these status codes we also called as the response status codes, which serves as a means of a communication between a server and the internet browser, or you can say a client. There are multiple classes available, which is defined by the HTTP as a standard, and every class has its own meaning. In like every There are some status codes defined in every class. So basically, there are 5 classes which HTTP has defined, and there are 5 series. Starting with 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. So let's start with the 100 series. What is 100 series is used. So 100 series, it's a information codes indicating that the request initiated by the browser is continuing. It means whenever we make a request from the client to a server and server responded with 100 to the browser, it means it is informing browser that, or client, server is informing that your request has been received and it's in continuation, it is in processing. The server is processing the request. So that is the 100 series code means. And the 200 series, I think everyone has used this status code in your project also. So these series indicate the success from the server. So whenever we make a request to server, like a put request or a post request or a get request, we generally, you guys have noticed, we generally get a 200 status code. So this, so the successful operation, uh, whenever a successful operation happened from the server, we get a 200 series of codes. We'll discuss what are the different types of codes available in most common codes we used in project. We will discuss further. But now let's move to the 300 series. So the 300 series is defined as a redirection codes returned when a new resource has been substituted for the requested resource. That means 300 series is used like consider a scenario. You have requested to a server for a particular method or a particular resource, and server has responded with the 300 resource to the browser. 300 means server is saying to the browser, is explaining to the browser that this particular resource does not exist on my machine. Please request some other machine. So it is a returning some the like other resource, like this resource is not existing on my machine. Let's suppose we hit a particular, for we are accessing a particular image on our node server, and node server responding with the 300 status code that this particular image does not exist on my system, this will exist on some other system. So that is for 300 series used for. And 400 series are basically the client error codes indicating that there was a problem with the request. Now the 400 series, when we get a 400 series error codes from the server, this means there is something wrong from our side, from the client side. Either we missed something, request params, or the token is missing, or the token is invalid. So whenever we get a 400 code from the server, that means there is something wrong from the client side. And the last series, which is the 500 series indicating the server error code, that the request was accepted from the browser, but there was a error on server while fulfilling the request. So, so there is a difference between the 400 and the 500 series. 400 series means whenever we get a 400 series response code from the server, that means there is something wrong from the client side. it means that while requesting that particular resource, there is something bad happened in the request. And in the 500 series means the request is correct, but there is something wrong happened on the server. Either server breakdown or the server is taking too much time to respond. So in that case, the server responds with the 500 series code. So these are majorly, these are only 5 classes and which available in HTTP status as a HTTP status code. Now, out of these classes, we generally use, I would like to discuss a few of the status code we used in our daily life while developing or interacting with the server, right? So the 200 status code, it's a very simple one. Whenever we create a resource on the server or whenever we get a successful response from the server while fetching the record, we generally get the 200, which is indicates that everything is okay. We are good to go. We get the response and everything is working fine. Everything worked fine, right? 201 201 means the resource which we are trying to create on the server that was successfully created. So that is 201 means. 202 means the request which client has made, that is accepted, and the request is in process mode. That is 202. 400 series, like I just explained, 400 series indicates there is something wrong happened from the client side in the request while making a request. So we generally, you guys must have seen this 400, 401, 403, something like these are codes. So 400 means the bad request. Bad request means server can't return a response due to error on the client end. It means either in the request body we missed some arguments or the query params we miss. So this is considered as a bad request. 401 is generally indicate the unauthorized, means we are not authorized to access the server because either we missed our token in the request body or the token is invalid. So in that particular case, we get a 401 from the server. Coming to the next, which is 403. 403 is basically we don't have proper access right to use this to access that resource. We are something trying to access that resource on which we don't have permission. So for that we get a 403 error. 404 is there is some resource which we trying to access and which does not exist on server, right? There is some image, let's take example of image. We are trying to access some URL of an image on a server which even though does not exist on server. So in that case it will return as a 404. 405 is a method not allowed. It means we are trying some method on the server. Like let's suppose we create a route as a get method, and we are let's suppose get user. We create a route, and we are trying from the postman post user, which does not exist on server. So in that case, it will give us a method not allowed. And the last one is the 500 series. Like I said, 500 series comes into the picture when there is something wrong happened on the server side, right? So generally we see these 3 status code from the server: 500, 501, and 502. 500 indicates that the error on the server and the request could not be completed. It means there is some internal server error. Either while fulfilling of a request, the server breakdown due to some wrong logic or something wrong happened on the server. So this code we generally get as an internal server, something wrong happened on the server. In 501, it indicates that the server does not support the functionality to fulfill the request. It means we are requesting something in which our server does not support to complete this requirement, to complete this request. And the last one is the bad gateway. 502 bad gateway. This you have seen many times even in the production applications also. 502 bad gateway generally occurs like when we make a request and server is taking too much long time to respond back, or server got hanged maybe. Internally our server is calling to another server to get a response, and eventually the it will take more time to get the response. So if the time exceeds the threshold limit, in that case the server will give us a 502 bad gateway. Uh, yeah, so these all are the status codes basically which help client to understand the server behavior. Okay, so let's jump to our third topic, which is Node.js. So what is Node.js? What is the difference between the JavaScript and the Node.js? So basically, Node.js is a server-side platform which is built on the Google Chrome V8 engine. Uh, it was developed by the Ryan Dayal in 2009. Okay, so Node.js is an open source cross-platform runtime environment. So what does that mean? Cross-platform runtime environment. It means the Node.js is it's first of all it is an open source. There is no license or there is no paid software. It can be used by anyone, and you can contribute also the Node.js uh, uh, repository, Node.js GitHub repository, and it's a cross-platform. Cross-platform means it is it like the Node.js is can be run on the Linux environments, Windows environment, and the Mac OS as well. So it is a cross-platform environment. And basically, why do we need this Node.js? Node.js is a server-side technology. So basically, we write the backend servers in Node.js, right? So Node.js is highly scalable because of its asynchronous and the single-threaded behavior, which we will discuss in the next topic, that is the event loop. So basically, Node.js is written in the JavaScript along with some C libraries like the libuv and the Chrome V8 engine. So uh, yeah, and what kind of applications we can develop? We can develop a highly scalable backend applications, real-time applications like the chat server, streaming applications like the video streaming applications. We can we can develop a networking application. So for these kind of application, Node.js is preferred and it's highly scalable. Okay. So Node.js is written in C, C++, and JavaScript. So basically, if you have also, you guys are also working in the Node.js from quite like some time in here. So it's nothing. It's a JavaScript only. So whatever the concept we studied in the JavaScript, the same concept applied in the Node.js itself, because the Node.js is also written in the JavaScript. It's a framework over JavaScript, right? The only thing is the major difference will cover up just after some time. But the major difference is JavaScript is you can say it's a server side. Sorry, JavaScript is a front end scripting language, and to run JavaScript as a backend in Node.js, we use the Chrome V8 engine and the libuv library. So that is the major difference between the JavaScript and the Node.js. Uh, Wikipedia defines Node.js as a package compilation of the Google V8 JavaScript engine, the libuv platform as abstraction layer, and the core library, which is itself primarily written in the JavaScript. So you can consider Node.js as a combination of JavaScript, C, and C++. So along with the Chrome V8 engine, obviously. So it's not like it's completely written in the JavaScript. It's a mix of C, C++, and the JavaScript. So along with the libuv, there are some inbuilt modules which we refer as the node modules. So there are some inbuilt modules in the Node.js. As you can see in the picture, we have a HTTP, FS, path, and the crypto. These are the already modules which exist in the Node.js which comes along with the Node.js default. So the code which we write in Node.js, it's purely a JavaScript, right? Whether it's a promise, callback, all these concept belongs to the JavaScript only. So now, why Node.js? Why Node.js becomes so popular as a backend technology? So here are some points why Node.js is so popular and why it is considered as one of the best technologies for the backend server. So, first is it's really fast. It built upon a Chrome V8 engine, and it handles the code asynchronously. The event loop behavior and the single-threaded asynchronous event loop. For that reason, it is very fast. The other reason is the community support. So we have thousands or millions of node modules nowadays published to the repository node. You can use a node package manager, which is npm, to use those modules in your project, and you can also create your own node module also, and you can publish them on the node repository. So the community support of the Node.js is very like uh, very wide. You can easily get, if you stuck somewhere, you can easily get community support. You can go to the GitHub, you can go to the Stack Overflow, so you will get easily find the solution for your problem. So that is also one of the good things for any programming language, the community support. Next one is asynchronous behavior, which we already covered. It's a non-blocking input-output. So this behavior helps Node.js to highly scalable. So that's why it's preferred over other programming languages. And the next point is the streaming, basically. So, for example, we need to read data from a 10 gigabytes file. There is a file, very heavy file on the server, like 10 gigabytes. We need to read all the data. So we cannot pull all the data in a one go in a buffer. That will throw an error as a memory out of exception, right? Because this amount, 10 gigabytes of buffer, is not possible. So for that, Node.js has provided a concept of the streams. So streams are a very powerful concept in the Node.js. We can use streams which will provide data as a chunks, and it will it is a very optimized way to stream any data from server to front end. So this is one of the very powerful concept of Node.js. The other one is a single-threaded. Like I said, single-threaded comes with an event loop, and the way it handles the non-blocking IO and the asynchronous operation, it makes it unique and highly scalable as well. So these are the reasons, some reasons for which Node.js is considered as a best option nowadays. And let's come to the difference between the JavaScript, and there are some basic difference which we'll cover as a Node.js and JavaScript. So JavaScript, like I said, it's a programming language. We mainly use JS to write scripts on the web pages or the website that makes the website as a dynamic. So basically, till now we have used JavaScript on the website only, like with HTML tags or something, or to make a data dynamic on web pages. For that, we have used the JavaScript. But Node.js is, it's a bit different. It's a runtime environment for JavaScript. It provides a runtime environment where Java can execute, and but it's a server side. It's this programming language Node.js is for the server side. Next difference is JavaScript runs on the browser. Node.js does not run on the browser. It will run on the Chrome V8 engine. It is on the backend technology. All right. Again, it is utilized on the web page, or you can say the client side. The Node.js is a server side technology, and it works on the server side. And the other difference is, yes, this is important. Like in JavaScript, we can access the DOM model of the browser. We can manipulate the DOM model of the browser, which will help us to create a dynamic pages on the website. But Node.js, since it's a backend technology, we cannot access the DOM model in the Node.js. The other difference is we can run JS in any browser engine such as SpiderMonkey in Firefox, and the JS core in the Safari, obviously the V8 engine in the Chrome. So we can run JavaScript in any of these browsers and any of these engines. But Node.js is can be only be available in as a V8 engine. It can only be run, the runtime environment for the Node.js is the V8 engine. So it helps in the parsing and running the JavaScript code on the backend. The type of development, again, it runs on the client side. The JavaScript runs on the client side and help us in developing the front-end application and dynamic pages, and Node.js in the server side developed by the JS. Some popular framework on the JavaScript are the Type.js, Lambda.js, etc. Node.js, we have a popular framework like Express.js, Lodash, Strong Loop, Happy.js. So these are some common frameworks in the backend. And last point is the JavaScript is a updated version of the ECMAScript. ECMAScript is earlier we have a standard defined as ECMA 2015 2016. So it's a ECMAS it's an updated version of the ECMAScript. You can say JavaScript is a ECMAScript. On the other side, Node.js, we have it's written over C, C++, and the JavaScript. So these all technologies combine to create a Node.js. So yes, this is the major difference between the JavaScript and Node.js, and why Node.js is so popular. We have also discussed those points, and what is basically the Node.js, what is on which technology it is built upon. Okay, yeah. So let's start with the next topic, which is Node.js is single-threaded or multi-threaded, and we will discuss the event loop also in this topic. Okay, but before that, we'll first understand what is single thread and what is multi-thread. We all have heard about like there are some languages which are multi-threaded. There are Node languages like Node.js which is single-threaded. So let's first understand what is the concept behind that. So uh, single-threaded process is the execution of the programmed instruction in a single sequence. Having said that, let's suppose there are three instructions or three statements: instruction A, instruction B, instruction C. Right? So in single-threaded process, how it will look like and how it will execute, it will like this: a single thread is there, and three executions will happen, one after the another. So when the A gets over, then the B gets executed. When a B gets over, then the C gets executed. So like this, we have a single-threaded model works, right? Now, when it comes to the multi-threaded, a multi-threaded process is the execution of the programmed instruction in the multiple sequence, which means we can execute the multiple statements in parallel, right? If I consider the same example here in multi-threaded environment, how it will look like? It will look like there are three threads here, and we are running the instruction parallelly. So A, D, and E we have running parallelly. Then after that C, B, and F, these are running parallelly, right? So there are both types of languages. You must have heard about the Java, .NET. So these are multi-threaded languages. Whenever we have a request, we can create a thread for that request, and this is how the multi-threaded languages work. But in Node.js, we all know that it is a single-threaded asynchronous language. But still, even after the single-threaded, Node.js is very well to do perform the heavy operations, or you can say it can scale up to the like it can easily scalable. That means it can handle a heavy traffic very easily. How is it possible in Node.js? Even though it is a single-thread language, so the answer is the event loop. So event loop is the, you can say it's a heart of the Node.js, and how it looks like. So we'll discuss about the working of the event loop. This is the high level picture. So whenever we have a request, there is a event loop going around in the Node.js environment, and this event loop is determine whether the request is synchronous or asynchronous. So there is a call stack in the event loop. There is a event queue or callback queue is there. There are child threads are there. So with the help of the child thread, so although it's look like a single-threaded language, Node.js for us as a developer, it's a single-threaded language. But internally, whenever there is a asynchronous task come, what Node.js is doing, it is assigning a child thread. You must have heard about the child thread in Node.js. It's an advanced level concept. Internally, Node event loop is doing it is assigning a child thread to the asynchronous task to avoid the heavy computing in the main thread, which is a single thread, right? So that's why it is very easily scalable. And whenever we create a database call or the any asynchronous operation like a third-party server call or the timers, so these all are assigning in a separate thread which will get executed, and that's why it is considered as a non-blocking input-output kind of behavior it performs. Now let's discuss the how the event loop works. Okay, so let's just simple steps we'll go through. Then we'll visualize. We'll show you how the event loop works in actual. Okay, so basically, whenever we make a request to the web server, so internally Node.js has maintained a thread pool, which is a libuv library in Node.js. Okay, so whenever Node.js server receives those requests, it places them in a queue, which is also known as an event queue or a callback queue. And then event loop is a single-threaded language. It's a single-threaded. We all know. Then event loop is checks whether any request is placed in the event queue or not. If the request is placed in the event queue, what event loop will do it will start processing that request, and if checks whether the request is any blocking operation or non-blocking operation. If it is any simple synchronous task, it will execute that particular request in the call stack and it will send back to the client. And if it's a some uh, uh, it's like a asynchronous task or uh, heavy operations like a database call or a HTTP server call. So what it will do is it will check the threads availability from the thread pool. It will assign one thread to the that particular call, and then when the thread get now the thread is responsible to execute that particular task. Once that task is complete, we get the data via callback, right? So this is how the event loop works. In this diagram, you can see whenever we here from the client we are making a request, and this event loop is running inside the Node.js environment, and here is the event queue where the requests are placed, and this is the thread pool. So whenever the request comes in the event loop, it will determine whether it's a asynchronous task or a synchronous task. So if it's a asynchronous task like a database call or a third-party server, it will assign one thread and it will assign one thread to this, and a callback is assigned which is placed under the event queue. So once that response comes in from that thread to this event queue, this will get executed into the call stack, and from that we get the response back to the client. Okay, so this is how the event loop works. Now I will show you like a visual picture. So here it's a site. I'll drop a link in the document. You can also play with this code. So here you can see we have write down this console statement, right? There is a set timeout function. Under the set timeout function, there is a console statement, and we have given a 5,000 milliseconds, and there is another console statement, right? So console statement is it's a simple one, right? It's a synchronous code. There is nothing asynchronous about this console now. But set timeout is a asynchronous third-party web API call, right? So this will get executed as a asynchronous call in Node.js event loop. Now on the right side, you can see there are three elements which are the major part of the event loop. You can say this is not the complete picture of the event loop, but it's just to give you an high level idea how the event loop works. So there is a call stack which I told you, like every statement gets executed in this call stack, right? Web APIs are the third party calls which are you can say like a server call, file system call, database call, timers calls. All these calls considered as a web APIs third party calls. And there is a callback queue in which the callback resides. This is the loop which keeps on running. This is the loop which keeps on running, and it will check whether the any statement here pending or not, and it checks the call stack. When the call stack is empty, then only it will execute the pending items in the queue in the call stack. So just keep in mind, whenever we get a data, the final statement execution happens in the call stack. This is the engine. This is the main part where the interpreter interprets every statement and generate the result. Okay. Now, if I run this code, see carefully how the statement got executed. Now I'm clicking on this run button. Okay. So when I click the run button, the first the console.log statement, then the set timeout, then the console. So whenever it determines the set timeout, it will call a third-party web API call. It put the callback queue, and then it will put to the call stack. I'm running once again to help you understand better. So console.log high, then the set timeout, then console log again. Timeout get executing in this web API third-party call, then a callback queue is assigned, then this callback queue is called, and after that this console final statement got printed. So this is a high-level overview how the event loop is working. Hope it will get clear to you all guys. I'll put this link in the document. You can try this code at your own. Okay.